in this first part, I'm going to be showing you how to make sewless scent cloths. This is just where we cut out the fabric and make the cloth. There's no sewing involved, so you don't need a sewing machine, just pinking, scissors, fabric, and a ruler to cut your lines out. I laid out my fabric on this ruler mat. You don't have to have a ruler mat, just as long as you have a ruler. I am putting this tape measure to mark out where the 5 inches is, and I'm going to pin it all along so that I know where to cut exactly and to cut in a straight line. I'm going from this first end all the way to the other end in the 5-inch mark. I'm now beginning to cut out all the way down. I'm going to cut long ways first all the way down, and I think I did 4 5-inch rectangles all the way down. I kept moving the ruler and going back to the next one. Now I turn the fabric and I'm cutting out another 5-inch square out of those rectangles I had made earlier. I just laid the fabric on top of each other and cut so I could cut more at the same time. And this next part is going to be the sewing scent cloth. So last video I showed you how to make the pattern for the hearts, which are what we're going to cut out. So I'm going to use that pattern again and cut my hearts out. This is the sewing part, so you need a sewing machine. I went ahead and cut out my first heart to make sure it looked good and make sure I didn't need to adjust anything, and it did. So now I'm going to be showing you me pinning the actual heart on to the fabric. Whenever I did this, I did it in like opposite directions. So in that first one you can see it's facing up. Now I flipped it to go in the opposite direction so I can save more fabric this way. Going to speed this up really fast. It's really easy. It's not too hard. I just put the pins in like around the heart to make it easier to cut so that none of the pins get in my way when I'm cutting. Also, the scissors I'm using are just regular fabric scissors. I'm not using the pinking scissors from last cutting. See, that's how I pinned it. And then now I'm just going to cut it all out. Making these is a very tedious job, so like take your time and make it perfect as much as you want. And they also don't need to be perfect. It's just gonna be for the baby. But if you want to make them perfect, even better. Sometimes I'm a perfectionist, so I understand. I like to make them perfect too. Sorry, I filmed a lot of me pinning and cutting. But this next one is how I saved fabric. So at first I was going to pin it regular, but then I realized that is on a fold. So I folded the heart in half and I put it on the fold. And I'm cutting it out. Kind of like how you know when you make hearts on paper. And then see what I mean by it's on the fold. Whenever I open the heart up, it's one whole heart. And not 2 separate ones. So only do that on the fold. Like right there. And right here along on the right side are folds for me because I folded my fabric a second time. So it's already half whenever you buy it. And then I folded it again, but in a different direction. Just to be safe, I wouldn't fold it again because it can get confusing. Like I have 4 layers right there, and typically you just have 2 from whenever they give you the fabric. So, yeah. But this is how I saved space on my fabric to make more hearts. Okay, now I'm going to get started on the actual sewing of the sewing scent cloth. So I'm at my machine. I do want to apologize in advance. Some of my ankles kept getting messed up because the machine kept shaking the table. But I'm excited for you to see, and hopefully you can learn from me showing you. I'm starting off with a quick wipe down. I already washed my hands. Now this is how to thread the machine to make a bobbin. That is a bobbin. Your bobbin is going to go down there underneath and be the underside of your thread, because it goes from the top and the bottom. Okay, this is how I thread to fill up my bobbin. So I start with my thread, putting it in the thread holder. I have my thread go underneath so it comes out on top, and I go behind this silver thing and then under my little machine, and then I go around this other silver thing with that little spoke, and then I wrap the rest of my thread around in a clockwise direction around the bobbin. Every machine is different. Almost every machine has directions on how to thread your bobbin. I can't speak for every machine when I say how to thread your bobbin because it's different. But it's simple to figure out. Like, there's pictures, you'll have a manual, and everything too. Okay, I'm done with filling up my bobbin. I fill it up halfway. I'll show you right here once I get it out and cut off. See, also, I unpopped it because some machines have you pop in the holder of the bobbin. So I unpopped it and then I cut it off because there's a little cutter on my bobbin. See, and I filled it up halfway. Now I'm going to show you how to actually thread the machine, which again is different for every machine, but typically this is kind of similar how you do it, but every machine will tell you how to thread it. So first I'm going through the little down, up and around, and now there's a silver thing that I'm going behind. See, I missed it the first time. Just try it again, go behind. It's gonna hold tension, and then I bring it back down and I put it behind this little silver C on around my needle. See right there. And now I'm just taking some scissors, cutting the thread so it's fresh, and then I'm looping it through the needle. Right there. Always cutting afresh into the thread helps thread it so much faster. Now I'm taking my bobbin, and every bobbin is different on how you put it in, but I put it in with a P, and then I go up and around the places it tells me to, and I put my cover back on so it doesn't fall out. And then there's like an overview of my machine. Okay, on to the actual sewing. First, I'm starting out by laying out my first hearts, and I'm going to start by pinning them together. Hearts aren't always going to be the same. They're always going to have a little difference, which is okay because good sides touch good sides. You'll feel the difference. Like, the bad sides don't feel as nice as the good sides, so you'll know the good sides. So you're going to have the good sides touching, means both are in the middle, and then you're going to pin on the outsides, the bad sides. I just go all the way around the heart, and I'm having my needles stick out. This is making it so much easier while I'm sewing for me to pull the needles out. If I had it around like whenever I was pinning, I would have to stop and pull them out between each thing. Now with a 5/8 inch seam allowance, which was what I was talking about, on my machine there's a little 5/8. You see that grid? That's where I'm doing it. And then now I'm going in and trimming my threads. I left a gap because that's where I'm going to need to flip it out later. Now I'm just going around. I trim my threads, and now I'm cutting off the axis to make it less bulky once I flip it back inside out. This part doesn't have to be exact. I just kind of trimmed it a little bit, so again, it's not bulky around the edges. I am now going back and reinforcing my edges. You can do this while you sew, but sometimes I like to go back just so I know exactly where. So the part where I'm going to flip it back inside out, I'm going back over the edges to have like 3 layers of fabric right there, so whenever I poke my holes and I'm flipping, it doesn't open, the seams don't open, it stays put together with that reinforcement. Every machine is different. Mine is this little reverse right there in the middle, and it just goes forwards and backwards and forwards again. And I cut it, and I'm trimming my threads again. I don't want any threads anywhere sticking out. See, and now I'm flipping it inside out like I want. And I noticed there's a slight imperfection to my first go around of the heart, right in the middle between the two hearts, or two halves. See right there, it's an opening. I'm just going to flip it back inside out and then go back over and sew what I messed up. It's always okay to go back and fix things. I just went in a little V. Okay, now that's off. I'm trimming my threads again. Don't want any threads sticking out left over. Now I'm flipping it back inside out to make sure it looks all good, which this time it did. Now next I'm just going to take a little marker to help me even out all the little round edges. So it's just going to go around to make sure I got all the little seams perfect. While I started sewing, I had plugged in my iron for this next part. We need to iron it so it's not as bulky. Sorry, my tripod did get a little moved. So it's not as bulky where the seams were. When I flatten the seams, it'll lay flat instead of like I was stuffing it, it'll be flat. Because babies can't have stuffed animals at this age especially. So the flat ones will help it. This took me all but like 20 minutes to make one, including setup. So probably without setup it would take me like 10. This is me. I'm pinning where I want to hold down, especially like where the seam and I flipped the heart. I'm pinning that down to make sure they stay inside and they're not sticking out. And then some small edges around the heart. It's most important to get that seam though. What I did is I just flipped it inside, and then I took the pins. I took 2 pins and I pinned on the middle, and then there was a little part sticking out, so I just pinned it there. And then that's it. Now I'm going in hand sewing. I took about an arm's length, doubled, so I pulled out the thread to about an arm's length and then folded it back over, and I threaded it through, and now I'm just trying to make it as seamless as possible. This is different for every single heart and how someone decides to sew. I went through the back end of the seam, like on the inside where the other sewing part is, and then I just started hiding exactly where I did it. That's it on how to make scent cloths. I hope this was helpful. I had fun making it. Please feel free to ask any questions. I know it can get complicated with learning off of a video, and I tried to explain as best as I could. But fun fact of the day is a baby's smell recognizes their mother's scent in the womb. So that's why scent cloths are so important, because the baby already knows what his mother smells like, so when the mother wears it and leaves it with it when it's in the NICU, it'll recognize it's its mom, because it already knew in the womb who its mother's scent was. Also, if you don't know what NICU is, it's Neonatal Intensive Care Unit. Neonatal is for babies, and then intensive care unit is ICU for those who need like intensive care. But yeah, thank you.